Okay, here's part 2.
I'm going to fix a small swivel. You don't need a very big swivel. Depends on what you're doing. And obviously, if I'm fishing salmon with this, I might use my 30 to 50 pound braid here on a swivel. But in this case, we're kind of rigging for kokanee. So I've got some 12-pound test on my steelhead reel here because we use hardware and weight. So what happens is that stops LongLiner at the swivel.
And you don't put a bead on there?
No, don't have to.
Okay.
This is about stealth, so we use just a tiny black micro swivel. And obviously, when I put the cam down, that pushes the cam into the brake, picks up the line, and it locks LongLiner on the line. So when a fish strikes, like a downrigger release, it releases and goes into a free slide mode. But you can adjust that. I had it set on salmon. Basically, it takes a pretty good hit to release it. So what we do is we screw in the brake adjustment screw to a point where it just about overpowers this clip. There, we overpowered it. Move it back a little bit. Now it's going to be a very easy release.
More for trout.
Trout and kokanee. So we got this really nice, easy release. Kind of get it exactly what we want. Screw it in just a little bit more. Okay, that's good. So we push it in. Now here's a brake.
To give the audience an idea of what the big picture
We will.
of how what the purpose of the LongLiner is.
Here's a set screw, so I get to release just exactly what I want. And I screw the set screw in, and I can go back to my predetermined release pressure every time.
Okay.
So, what's the big picture? LongLiner was developed to fish for big trout in very clear water. That's the first how I got the first concept. And one of the problems I had is if I was flatlining with fluorocarbon and a fly rod or a spinning rod, and I was fishing a couple hundred feet behind the boat, I could do well because these fish are very spooky with a fly or a small flatfish. But when it gets in this situation where you want to be down 10, 15, 20 feet or even deeper, you have to have an inline weight, which shortens the possible leader length. So if you have even a 9-foot rod, an 8-foot leader, it's going to be hard to land a fish, especially by yourself. You lose control of the boat. So with LongLiner, I can fish my primary leader aft of this swivel. I can put on 24 inches of fluorocarbon if I want, whatever I'd like. I can add a weight, either hang a small weight directly off this front hole here by putting a clip through it and hanging a piece of monofilament and clipping on split shot or a little cannonball or however I want, or we can use this weight dropper that I've developed, and you can slide on egg weights that hold, and you can slide them off and on and adjust your weights without retying. So what this does is gives you a stealthy presentation. Now I can fish trout, salmon, whatever I'm fishing for, far behind the boat. Usually salmon aren't very leader shy or boat shy, but big rainbows, big brown trout are very boat shy. They don't like boat motion, boat noise, boat shadow, and it puts them off. So we got to fish way behind the boat. So we're using big plugs, flies, and flatfish and spoons, like I told you. We can get those any distance behind the boat that we would like. Clip on LongLiner, drop it down to the depth that I want to fish, which is easily determined, and troll at that depth consistently. And when you get a strike, The weight then essentially is released. It goes into a free slide mode, which allows the fish to run without dragging so much weight through the water. But also when you get close to the boat, I've got essentially a 24-inch leader, which makes it easy to net the fish and control the fish at the boat.
That's great. So you get to do away with the heavy, cumbersome downrigging system.
Right. Downriggers are great tools, but there are situations where they're cumbersome, they're in the way. One time I was up in Canada using a downrigger, and I was using 8-pound test on an ultralight spinning rod, and I hooked a 20-pound lake trout on my downrigger, and that fish wanted to stay right at the ball. And so I was in the boat by myself trying to reel it, but of course it wasn't an electric downrigger. I was trying to crank up that downrigger ball and keep that fish away from the ball while I had this ultralight trout rod. Anyway, we eventually got it, but it was kind of a panic.
Yeah.
This kind of a system would take that panic out of the equation and allow me as a single fisherman to land my fish easily.
And like today, we're in a riverboat. So this smaller, more self-contained down weighting system is preferential over a heavy, cumbersome.
Yeah, especially if you're not set up for it or don't want to use one or don't have one. So some people call it a tackle box downrigger.
Oh, that's great. I like that
Yeah.
tagline. That's good. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.